are picking up right now. We stopped on verse 6, Colossians 2:6, page 50 of the manual. He says, as you have therefore received Christ Jesus the Lord, so walk ye in him, rooted and built up in him. Notice that's going down and going up. Rooted and built up. Okay? Without a good root, you can't be built up very high. In other words, you can't be very strong. You have to have a good foundation. And established in the faith, as you have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. Beware. Now notice he says this again here. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit. Now a lot of that is, again, what we're seeing in the church even in this day and hour, is a whole lot of men's philosophy, men's reasoning, and we just have to get back to the Word of God. It's just so easy to stay in the Word. I don't know why anybody would want to venture off somewhere else. We're having problems. Houston, we have a problem. There we go. Okay. Now, look at verse 9. Here we go. Let me finish reading verse 8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. Don't let people convince you, well, this is the way it's done, this vain philosophy, and they bring this natural thinking into the church. You can't think naturally. No. You have to think spiritually. You have to think with the mind of Christ. Christ thought the opposite of the way the world thought. Now, and I would even say Christ thought the opposite of the way religion thought. Verse 9, for in him dwells all the fullness of the Godhead bodily. In him. And it says there that we are to go after Christ, to be trained up after Christ, rooted, built up in him, right? Now watch this. For in him dwells all the fullness of the Godhead bodily. Now that's a good statement, but he didn't stop there. Verse 10, and you are complete in him. All of God lived in Jesus, and you are complete in him. You hear that? You're mixed right in there in the mix, right in there with him. Which is the head of all principality and power, in whom, in Christ, also you are circumcised with a circumcision made without hands, in putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ. And it's talking about the circumcision of the heart. It's talking about being born again. Buried with him. Now notice all these, he keeps bringing all these metaphors back to us to show what happened in the law of identification of how we identified with Christ. All right? You are complete in him. In him, you have been circumcised not with the circumcision made by hands, right? But rather one made by the heart. Buried with him in baptism, wherein also you are risen with him through the faith of the operation of God, who has raised him from the dead. So in other words, as soon as you believed in him, you were included in what he did, you were included in it. As we said in the DHT, it was like a class action suit. You were named in him, and because of that, you get everything he's got. Right? You've got to believe this. You've got to move into this. You've got to quit thinking in terms of lack. Whether it's power, finances, faith, anything. Quit thinking that way. You have to realize God is faithful. If God is faithful, there is no question about your faith, because your faith is in him. Do you get that? It should never be an idea of, do I have enough faith? Because what you're questioning is how faithful God is. Right? Sarah, we know in the situation with her and Abraham, laughed, right? But if you read Hebrews 11, it says that she counted him faithful. And because she counted him faithful, now get that, she was included in Hebrews 11 in the hall of faith because she counted God faithful. Right. Yeah. You get that? It wasn't because she was counted faithful. It was because she counted God faithful. But now here's a secret. When you count God faithful, what measure you meet, it's measured back. Come on. When you count God faithful, he counts you faithful. Why? Because your faith is in him. Now tell me that doesn't just get all wound up in there, right? Think about that. When you count him faithful, he counts you faithful. It's a closed circuit. Amen? Now think about that. All you have to do is decide he's faithful to keep his word. That's if you ever hear me teach anything, if you boil it down to the lowest common denominator, that's what it goes back to every time. God is faithful to keep his word. That's always, everything I preach, that's what it goes back to. If somebody said, what are you going to preach today? That God is faithful to his word. And then I may bring out a certain part of his word that we're going to emphasize about him being faithful. But overall, the message is simply that God is faithful to keep his word. And the minute you count him faithful to keep his word, he counts you faithful. And you get listed in Hebrews 11. You get that? It's this simple. Listen, it's not about how good of a theologian or a Greek scholar or a Hebrew scholar or anything else that you are. It has nothing to do with that. All you got to do is count him faithful. Good. And anybody can do that. That's why he said faith like a child. He wants you to become like a child. Just count him faithful. Just know he will keep his word. If he said it, he will do it. Amen? Now, he says here, you are complete with him, in him, which is the head, as we said in verse 10. Then it says you were buried with him, verse 12, wherein you were risen with him through the faith of the operation of God who has raised him from the dead. And you, being dead in your sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh, hath he quickened, made alive, together with him. When were you made alive? When he was made alive. It was counted with him. Do you get that? Having forgiven you all trespasses, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his cross, and having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it. Now, notice here, it says he spoiled principalities and powers. When you go back, was it in Luke that Jesus talks about spoiling the strong man or binding the strong man? And it basically just, when you boil it down, all he's saying is he had to come in and bind this strong man, which had taken things from his people. And now you'll notice it says that you have to be stronger than the strong man to bind him. Right. Jesus was the one that was stronger than the strong man and bound him. You get that? It never says he unbound him. Matter of fact, it doesn't say anything about Satan being unbound until later on in the book. Isn't that right? It says for 1,000 years he'll be unbound, he'll be loosed. Isn't that right? But now think about this. Now I'm not trying to get into eschatology or any of that kind of stuff or end time stuff. I'm just trying to emphasize to you, don't unbind Satan where God hasn't unbound him. Right? There was one stronger than Satan that bound him. That's who you're in. And even if you face Satan, he's already been beat once by the one that's in you. Right? Beat once, and we know kind of once and for all type of deal, but he beat him every other time he saw him also. He beat him over and over. Every time they met, Jesus won. You get that? Mm-hmm. He never lost a match. Never lost a battle. Never lost a fight. 100%. All the way across. Might have took sometimes an extra laying on of hands or so, but regardless, he won. Okay? That's who's in you. Thanks be unto God, which always causes us to triumph in Christ Jesus. Are you in Christ Jesus? Yes. Then you are meant to always triumph. You should never lose a battle. Yeah. And honestly, as long as you stay in him, there's no reason for you to ever lose. All right? Now, matter of fact, we're going to talk about a question we had here in just a minute. But he said here, he made a show of them openly, these principalities and powers, triumphing over them in it. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or drink or cokes or anything else. Or in respect of a holy day, or of a new moon, or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come. But the body is of Christ. In other words, don't let people put you in bondage over these ritual things. And it's not talking about just eating in general, honestly. It's talking about a ritual way that they had to eat and do things, prepare food, and make sure it was kosher and all that kind of stuff. He said, listen, don't get hung up in that. Because if you get hung up in that kind of stuff, you're not going to be very effective ever out on the mission field. Because a lot of stuff isn't made the way you want it to be made out there. And things aren't dedicated the way you want them dedicated. And they're not, made kosher, as we would say. So you just have to go with it and move forward things. And don't let people judge you on this. But realize, if they're doing that, it's just because generally the Bible calls them weak in faith. That's what it says. It says if you judge a person based on foods and they eat and how they do these things and what day they keep, then they are weak in faith. It says don't offend them, because they are weak in faith. Build them up. Show them the truth. Bring them into freedom. Right? But don't, listen, I know it may seem like it, but I don't try to offend people on purpose. Okay? Now, apparently I don't have to try very hard. So, and then finally, 1 Timothy 3:16, page 52. And without controversy, no doubt about it, great is the mystery of godliness. God was manifest in the flesh, justified in the Spirit, seen of angels, preached among the Gentiles, believed on in the world, and received up into glory. Now, go to the next page. This we talked about a little bit in the new man, in the Divine Healing Technician training. And I want to talk about this, and I'm going to try to put both these together. I don't expect to get done with this on this next session because there's quite a bit there. But I do want to comment on this question because very often, and believe me, I have agonized over this myself. I've looked at it and went into it and checked it out, and I believe I have some answers to it. But it's not enough to have an answer, right? It's not enough to have an answer to a problem. You've got to work the answer so that the problem ceases to be a problem, right? That's what I don't like about a lot of the stuff, kind of the different counseling type stuff where they go back into the spiritual roots. And that's why I don't. Why? Because they are so good at finding the problem and never setting anybody free. It's not about you, and I'm not saying nobody gets free ever. I'm just saying that too often it becomes I found the problem, now, okay, let's move on, rather than fix the problem, rather than set people free. So, and I'm not against counseling in and of itself. That's a part of discipleship. We just try not to counsel people generally into freedom. We try to get them free and then disciple them into the image of Christ. Right? So that's the process. Now, understand there's times when people have certain things that they need clarity on. There's things to look at. But our problem is once you kind of go in that direction, you tend to take everything that way. And some things you just don't need to take that way. Some things you just need to blast and knock out of a person. All right? Not physically, but you know what I mean, okay? So it said, Dear Curry, I've been very blessed listening to the new man, matrix mindset, many others of your teachings. Now, when it starts like that, it's going somewhere. Okay? My question is, why is it we see instant manifested healings many times in other places, other countries, but here we don't have the same success rate as far as seeing instant manifested healings here? I know it's an issue of renewing the mind. That's true. I don't believe in other countries don't have issues of unrenewed minds. That's true. But yet thousands and thousands are seeing instant physical manifested healings. Yes. Now, first off, there's several aspects of this. I'm going to make it as simple and as quick as I can. Number one, it's twofold. Okay. First off, the signs. Okay, for it to be a sign, it needs to be instant, or very, very quick, right? Not drawn out. Not for it to be a sign. If you have to tell a person stand in faith, it's not a sign. All right? Standing in faith is not a sign. Jesus never intended his disciples to minister to people and tell these people who were not saved, didn't know him, didn't know anything about him, wasn't part of the family of God at all. He never expected them to have to stand in faith. He expected there to be a display of power that demonstrated that the kingdom that they were representing was stronger than the kingdom that held that person in bondage. Right? That is the gospel of the kingdom of heaven. It's just simply put. Now, so I firmly believe that for it to be a sign, that it needs to be quick, right? Pretty quick, where they can relate it to the hands being laid on or something with that incident. Now, here's one of the big deals, one of the main points of this. Number one, and I'll take it twofold, I guess. When you go into other countries, and that's generally, I know that's been my complaint too many times, and I've heard other people say the same thing in other camps and other groups. Why is it we can go overseas and see such amazing miracles, and we come back here in the United States, and it seems like everybody has to believe for everything and stand in faith forever, right? And I agree, that seems to be the way it appears many times, and I'm not going to say appears. That's the way it seems. Now, part of it is this. Part of it is the fact that usually when you go overseas, I would say probably, well, it would depend on the meeting, I guess, but usually you have more unsaved people in meetings than you do Christians. And you have people coming from different backgrounds, voodoo, witchcraft, animism, ancestral spirit things, I mean, all that stuff. And they don't know anything. So it is definitely a sign to them. Okay? Very seldom is healing in the church a sign here. Why? Because most of the people that are here are Christian. The signs aren't for them. You understand that? Now, the second aspect of this is that, number one, when you go overseas, people look at you different many times. Sometimes they're healed on their faith because of what they perceive you to be. And they come to the meeting and get what they believe God for, and it could have been you or anybody else standing there and it has nothing to do with you, and you know it. Okay? They just come expecting and they meet God. God meets them, bam, they get it, and it's a sign from God to them. And just like in T.L. Osborne's meetings, where he had meetings, open-air meetings in Muslim countries with many Muslims there, and Jesus would show up in visions and everything and walk through the crowd, and people get saved. Amazing things. Okay? The difference a lot of times has to do with where it's at. Now, secondary, now on our part, the person that's going in ministry. When I'm here, I have 1,001 things that are constantly pulling on me. Like today. Today's Friday. What does that mean? Payday. So during breaks, I have to go write checks. I'm back in the back, I write checks. During lunch, I had to go to the bank and transfer payroll to make sure everybody eats. But why? Because they're my responsibility. So that's in my head. When I'm over there, ain't none of that. When I'm here, my phone rings, I get text. I get texts from people around the world. I get texts from family. I get texts from situations and all. It's just constant. It's a constant barrage. When I'm overseas, no phone, right? And even the phone that we take with us, sometimes it's a little BlackBerry that we picked up over there that when we go in, we fly in the airport, we can put a SIM card in it, and we use it while we're there. I don't use it here at all. It's just when I get there, as soon as I get to the airport, I can fix it, and we got a phone. Nobody really knows that number except my leaders. Why? Because there's no need for anybody to call it, because most of the time, it's only good when I'm there. So when nobody's calling, it is amazing. Okay. Yeah. I'm thinking about just a month and a half and I'll be there. Amen. No. When I'm over there, like now, today's time, it is just like it was for me when I started. In other words, there wasn't 1,000 people pulling on me every day. I was just walking with God. I was just thinking and praying and praying for God to open doors and praying for God to give me a place to preach. But there was no demand, right? Because nobody knew anything about us. They didn't know to call. And many times when I go over there, it's quiet. And it's almost like stepping back, 20 years or so. And all I do is walk around and pray and fellowship with people, and it's awesome. And then when I go into a meeting, I know we got one shot. I'm not going to be there every day for a month, in a place dealing with the same person. I'm here 3 days, we go somewhere else 3 days, we go there. And so those people have to get help or they die. So all the focus is on the people. Total focus on the people. There's no focus on ministry, on buildings, on is this building going to be big enough, or we're going to have to get another building, or we're going to have an overflow building, and contracts, leases, none of that. And so when you go overseas, and this is what Paul told Timothy, he says, a good soldier does not get entangled in the affairs of this life. And very honestly, to reach people that are asking us for help, we have to grow. And when we grow, there are entanglements that come with it. Now, it doesn't have to be. If I can get people trained up that know how I operate, and what I mean by that is, money's not a thing. You know what I'm saying? See, I have to be very careful. And I know, Kevin, I trust the people that are here that work with me, but they can't handle it all because we're growing, but I trust them. But at the same time, I have to raise up people that I can pass the business end of this over to and know that they're not going to say, oh, yeah, Curry will come, for a $5,000 honorarium, right? Because everybody knows that's not me. But if they don't know my principles, they may say something like that. You see what I'm saying? And I've had situations like that. I had one time when I went out of country, and while I was gone, somebody wrote a letter to all of our partners. They got a hold of our partner list and wrote and said, we want to give Brother Curry, his birthday's coming up, and we want to give him a birthday gift. So if you'll send in a small gift for his birthday, we want to give it to him. I had no knowledge of that. And anybody that knows me knows that would never happen if I had known about it. But once it's out there, and here I tell people we don't do this, and then it goes out, and it looks like it came from our ministry, my credibility gets hit. Now, I'll tell you, one thing I've learned, money is the least needed thing for ministry. Right. It's the least needed. It's amazing how much, with this internet stuff, we can reach the world pretty cheap. It's the trappings that people think have to be there that cost money. And I hate that stuff, and I hate getting entangled in that stuff, but it's those entanglements that keep your mind busy, that keep you not focusing on people and on helping people. And that's why many times we see things overseas that we don't see here, to a degree. And we see them here, but a lot of times it's not as instant, or even if it is, it's just differences. And I'll tell you this, just so you do know, I had people travel with me on the road, go with me on trips here in the United States. We went up to, Rudilac, Wisconsin? Yeah, right at the bottom of one of the big lakes there, Lake Erie or something like that. I don't know which one it is now. But this person rode with me in my Yukon at that point. No, it was a Tahoe, sorry. But we were going up and rode with me, and we're talking, and it's awesome, and it's good, and we're having all this stuff. And we go to this meeting, and in this meeting we had some major healings taking place, and we had this young girl that had spinal bifida. Her spine was outside of her body. She was 15 years old, something like that. Spine was outside of her body. Couldn't walk, hadn't walked since had never really walked unaided. She was there in the meetings, didn't want to know anything about this, didn't want to have anything to do with Christian. Why? Because she'd been to other meetings and people grabbed her out of wheelchairs and they pull her up on the platform, make sure the camera's there, and they pull her up and why? Because they're not concerned about her. They just wanted a good healing on tape. And this girl got fed up with it and said, I don't want nothing to do with that anymore. I don't believe it. Somebody passed her some of our CDs and said, she told her parents, I want to go to this meeting. And they were shocked. And they said, why? And they said, because he sounds different. And so she came into the meeting, was sitting. It was a huge auditorium. She was sitting there, and she sat there for several days, and somebody come and told me about her. And I said, okay, we'll go pray for her. And I walked over to her and started talking to her and just ministered to her. And she was there the full 3 days. And the first day we ministered to her, and another day. And finally, the night of the healing service, I ministered to her again, and stuff was going on, but you don't know how much of it's psychosomatic. Mm-hmm. You don't know how much of it is the power of God. To just, being honest with you. And when we finished, I went to her and I said, what do you want to do? I said, you want to get out of that wheelchair? We'll help you up. You don't want to get out of it? You want to just let God do this? Whatever you want, we will do it that way. And she said, I want to walk. I said, okay, let's get her up. Had a couple of guys help me. We stood her up, moved the wheelchair, put my hand on her back. You could feel her spine. And put my hand on her back and commanded that thing to be healed, be normal. And this girl started crying, shaking, said she felt something go through her body, and she started walking. She walked out of there that night with her parents pushing her wheelchair. Everybody in that town knew her. I mean, this was a major thing. The spinal cord started retracting back into her body, started flattening into her body. Within a couple of weeks, from what I understand, it was basically totally inside her body. Healed up on the outside, a miracle, no doubt about it. Now, it took a while. Took a little bit of time there. But she walked that night. We get back in my Tahoe, start to head back. I think we're heading back. Yeah. And this guy that was riding with me, it's just me and him, and he started just crying. And I'm thinking, this really moved him. You know, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, this is good. It's the way it's supposed to be. And this guy starts crying. He leans over on the dash of the Tahoe, puts his head down, starts crying. Oh, Curry, when are we going to see the power of God? I mean, literally. And I'm driving, and I'm thinking, what? I mean, and I said, what did you say? He said, I just want to see the power of God. And I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And he said, I just want to see God move. I just want to see the power of God. And I said, where were you tonight? I mean, she wasn't the only one that got healed. It was, bam. I mean, it was amazing. We had several hundred people healed that night. Good. All kinds of stuff. Feet, back, neck, you name it. Amazing stuff. Some instant, some gradual, some proportional, you know what I'm saying? But just people were testifying. And when I stood up, when I opened up that night, I said, all right, who in here has pain in your body? Hands went up. I said, just to show you that God is here and that I have authority over this thing right now in the name of Jesus. Pain, I command you. And I started commanding this pain to go. And I said, you will leave these people and you go now. I cut my hands real fast and I go and yelled. I said, now, who got healed? And instantly, hands started going up. Boom, 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 all over the place. I said, look around. I said, if you need healing, look around. I said, who touched you? Was it a man? Wasn't me. I said, who touched you? Jesus is here. He is here to heal and set you free. And I just went through this thing. And people were just, I mean, it was amazing. All that went on. And this guy's sitting over here. And then we started to head back, and he starts talking about wanting to see the power of God. When are we going to see the power of God? And we got back to the hotel that night. And I remember sitting there. We went into the hotel. We had separate rooms, actually. And we went in there, and before we went in, we went down and sat down and talked. And I looked at him, and I told him, I said, where were you? What was going on? What do you mean when you're going to see the power of God? I said, that girl walked tonight out of that wheelchair, left pushing the wheelchair. Yeah, I want to see the power of God just come in and sweep a place and things going. I'm like, that's what happened tonight. Yeah. I said, maybe what you're thinking you want to see isn't what God talks about you seeing. I said, maybe you got this different idea. Maybe you're missing the forest for the trees. Mm-hmm. Maybe you got some idea. Did a cloud of glory come in? No. Did people get out of wheelchairs? Yes. Was God's glory manifested? You bet. Was his power manifested? It was. And this man, yeah, but I just want to see. Well, he had come out of this a particular camp that, wanted to see gold dust and gold fillings, and nothing against that. I mean, when it's real, if it's real, great. If it's not, don't care about it anyway. But just stuff, he was wanting this show. And he said, I just want to see this. And I said, well, you have to realize, this wasn't for you. God's not trying to convince you. Who do you think you are that God has to convince you? Signs aren't for you. You're supposed to be the believer. They're supposed to follow you. For a believer to have signs follow him, the only way a believer can have signs follow him and see them is he has to turn around and be looking back instead of looking forward. And we went on this for some time. I got mad. I told him, I said, if you can, you seriously need to find another way home. I said, you can fly home, get a bus, I don't care. And he said, are you serious? I said, yeah. I said, I don't want to, I can't do this. I can't listen to you sit there and say that there was no power in this meeting when these people got out of wheelchairs. I said, I don't need that. I said, the next people I'm going to minister to, they need to have me fully convinced. Right. Come on. I said, I can't listen to you. And he got mad. He got quiet because he didn't want to go home another way. Yeah. I mean, I knew he had money. I mean, he told me I can take care of my own way and all that kind of, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm not above just stopping into a truck stop and leaving you there. Amen. Why? Because things are more valuable and these people's lives are more valuable than listening to your stuff, you know? You say, well, aren't you afraid you're going to make some people mad? No, I'm more afraid I would leave people unhealed. Do you get that? That's I don't want to be entangled. That's why I'm constantly, I go all over the world and tell people, come to Dallas, man. Jump in here, work with us. Why? Because I'm trying to alleviate some of the entanglements. Because I don't want them. I don't want to be a businessman. If I want to be a businessman, I'd have stayed in business. I don't want that. Amen. I want to be free to spend my time in prayer and ministry of the Word, study of the Word. That's what I want to do. I want somebody else to handle the other stuff. I don't want to do that. But it's these entanglements. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. And again, the Word of God is very clear. In Mark chapter 4, it talks about how the cares of this world choke out the Word. Oh, yeah. That's what that is. You get caught up in these entanglements. You get caught up. We used to call them in the military. You walk through, and it's an amazing thing. They got these little things on the ground. It almost looks like carpet that you actually have to step kind of high and step on them. And if you drag your feet at all, these little bitty vines will hook your feet. Because one by one, you could just snap them. But when there's like a dozen of them, and you hook them with your boot, you'll fall down. Why? Because together, they're strong. Individually, you break them apart, you look at them, you just, wow, look at that. Isn't that easy? But together, they'll trip you up. And we used to call them gotcha vines. You know, they'd be walking, somebody fall down, I got you, didn't it? They got you. The vines got you. And people, we realized you couldn't drag your feet. You have to actually pick them up. Why? Unless you want to get entangled. You have to step on them, not drag your feet through them. And so that's what happens, and you can hear the Word, and yet it can get choked out by all this other stuff that you think is so important. And that's one of the things I love. Do you know why? Okay, I've been to Italy, I've been to Malta and Sicily and those areas. I've been to the UK. I've not been to France, not been to Spain, not been into Germany. Do you know why I haven't been there? It's too industrialized. That's why I haven't been there before. I had no desire to go there. Why? I love going to third world countries. Why? You get over there, you don't have all this stuff. Australia, honestly, I'm not trying to put any country down, okay? But you go to Australia, it's the easiest thing in the world to stay in the Word. You know why? They got 3 channels. 3 channels on TV. Nothing worth watching. Unless you watch the government channel, those people in Parliament fight. I'm not kidding. I mean, one guy took his shoe off and threw it at another guy. I'm like, okay, that's worth watching. We'll hang it there. I mean, they jump on each other and yell and laugh at each other, and it's amazing, And it's like, wow, they treat each other like we talk about the Congress here. We laugh at them, whereas they laugh at each other. And I watched it, and then you turn the channel, and Steel Magnolias is on. Steel Magnolias, right? You turn the other channel, and it's in another language. That's what you've got to watch, right? Parliament beating themselves up, Steel Magnolias, or another language, right? And to be honest with you, when I first got there, you get there, you got jet lag. At 4 in the afternoon, you want to fall asleep, and at 4 in the morning, you're wide awake, and you're thinking, who do I need to call? And you can't call anybody. So you turn on TV. I know every word to Steel Magnolias. I could quote it like a script. I mean, because you're trying to sleep. I thought, surely if anything will put me to sleep, it will be watching Steel Magnolias, right? And now it's kind of like, oh, look, Steel Magnolias. Oh, no. But it's easy to stay in the Word in places like that. You go to Thailand. I love going to Thailand. It's awesome to go there. You get there in Bangkok, it's so funny. You open the door and heat hits you. Boom. Wow. And it's a whole different feel. You get to the hotel, and you have to put your little key card in the thing to turn on the electricity. And when you take your key out when you leave, the electricity goes out. So then you get smart and you take the key off of the card and leave the card in, and take the key in your pocket, and that leaves the air conditioner on while you're gone. So when you get back, it's cool. It's things you learn on the road. Okay. So, and we get in there and it's dark out, and you're 10 stories up in this cheap hotel, and you walk in. I remember when Rebecca walked in the first time, we were so tired, and it was during the tsunami. Whenever she went over to get in bed, she walked over by the bed and here's this nice inviting bed. She just drops into it, and it's just wood. I mean, it's like whack. She's like, I think you're going to have to pray for me. I mean, but I remember going out and opening that door at 4 o'clock in the morning and stepping out on that little patio thing, and you're looking down, and it's got lights, and and it's dark, and the city is not even asleep. Things are still going, but the heat is there, humidity is there, and you feel it. And you look out there and you think, this is going to be a great meeting. This is going to be awesome. Why? Because these people got nowhere else for help. These people, they got nothing else to look to. And so we go out there and have these awesome meetings and talk to people, minister to people. And you go to different places, like Singapore is the same way, cleanest city I've ever been in. And you go to these different places in these third world countries, and it's totally different feel, because you're just there. It's real life. It's not, now they're starting to get more devices. But when we first went over, all that wasn't there. Now everybody's got an iPhone or iPad or something, some smartphone or something. But you just get away from all that stuff. And you're just there. And there's no entanglements. And you just take your Bible and you open, you sit on the patio, and the heat's there, and you can hear the cars going, and you sit there and read. And just spend time with God. See, you want to know why we don't see more here? Because you got too many distractions. You got too much stuff going on. You got too many things that you think is just necessities, and they're not. It's just ridiculous. When I went to Africa in '97, I remember the first thing, I come back over here, I'm so mad. I look at the Christian world, and I remember telling them, man, you don't want to hear what I got, because my pastor wanted me to tell the people. I said, you don't want to hear what I got to say. I said, they don't need us over there. We need them over here. Why? Because these people know faith. Because they either have faith or they die. There's no extras. And that's what the pastor told me when I was there. He said, oh, Brother Cuddy. He said, because I told him, I said, man, how do you do this? How do you get your people to do this? He said, over here it's very simple. We believe God or we die. He said, we don't have hospital every corner. He said, we believe God or we die. You have too many options. Every option you have other than God is an idol. You hear that? Every option you have other than God is an idol that you put in front of God. And you run to it before you run to Him. And it's just a matter of getting away from things. Now, build your faith, whatever you got to do to get your faith up there, that's great. But I'm telling you, you don't help your faith by running to idols. Just get free. Trust God. You say, well, what if I trust God? What if I die? Oh, wouldn't that be awful? You get to see Jesus faster than other people. Come on. What is this life, right? We got to realize we're here a short time. Let's make it count. Let's make it count. Let's trust God. You're given a short period of time to show that you have faith. Let's make it count. Let's do something that God's been waiting for centuries. Something He's never seen, but He's dreamed about. And He keeps saying, are you the generation? Are you the one? You say, well, why would God think that? Because that's what He did with the Israelites. Brought them right up to the edge and said, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. You said that I brought you out here to die in the wilderness. So you'll take another trip around. Why? Because I'm waiting for you to die. Because you set your standard. You said, I brought you out here to die, so be it. And I'll bring in the next generation. And then the next generation comes around and says, are you the generation that's going to go across? Are you the generation that will go into the promised land? Let's see. I can tell you, God has been trying to get this message out that I've been preaching for the last 10 years roughly, especially the last 4. He's been trying to get this out at least for the last 60 years. Longer than that, actually, but I'm saying I can trace it back specifically. Bits and pieces of this. He tried in 1947, Manifested Sons of God. He tried with the Latter Rain movement. he brings the church right to the border, right to the Jordan River, and says, are you the generation that will go in? And somebody then, they go, oh, I'm better than this person. He goes, oops, sorry, wrong answer. We'll wait till the next generation and see if they learn what sonship and servanthood is. And then he just goes around again. Says, who's going to bring this in? Who's going to bring this up? Who's going to walk in this? Who's going to be truly manifested sons of God? Who's going to walk as sons of God? In humility, in agreement with God about what he said. Who's going to walk in this thing? Good. This is what it comes down to. But you're going to have to make a choice, and you're going to have to make a step across the line that the church world is going to come after you with everything it's got. Why? Because just like Noah, every day you build the ark, you bring condemnation onto them. Why? Because they're refusing to walk with God. And your righteousness will embarrass them. And because of that, just like the Pharisees, see, they didn't care that Jesus healed a person. They cared that he healed the person, and they couldn't do it. And it embarrassed them. And so they went after him. And that's why the church world is going to hate it, because you're going to do things that they can't do. Because I love what David Hogan says. That people told him, said, you're just arrogant. And he said, arrogance never raised the dead. Think about that. So we have to make that decision. Are we going to step across it? Are you going to make a decision to make a difference? Are you going to lay down, the one thing? That's one of these things. Listen, I know God has desires for us. And I know God wants you to be happy. He wants you to be happy. But he wants you to be happy doing the right thing. And many times we look at people and say, what do you like? Well, I like music. I like photography. I like cooking. I like, these are things I really like. I like cars. I like, whatever it is. I like these things. And God says, okay, and I've never met a musician yet that truly served God in music that somewhere didn't have to lay it down. Because God will not share you with anything else. He wants to know, do you love me more than you do that music? Now, and just because you lay it down doesn't mean it's never going to come back up. God might say, as soon as you raise that hand, just like Abraham, as soon as you start to come down, he'd go, okay, now I know that you fear me. Now I know that you will obey me. So you might not have to lay it down long, but I've never known a musician who didn't have to lay it down. I've never known anybody that whatever, it's like God says, what do you like the most? I like this. He goes, good, lay it down. Well, but then we have the other side where people say, what do you like the most? I like this. Oh, well, God says go after that. Better be careful. Why? Because you might be sending somebody down a path that God has said lay that thing down. Right? Now, I'm not saying once he says lay it down, he won't say, okay, pick it back up. It's been sanctified now. Use it for me. So, but we have to realize what God wants. Yes, first and foremost, God wants you to be conformed to the image of his Son. First and foremost. And sometimes that means laying everything else down for a while until you get that growing in you, and then he can bring this other stuff back in. But you have to reach that point. What do you love more than God? What do you love that causes... What do you choose to spend your time at? More than praying, more than, and I don't even want to say praying, please. Listen, I do not do the religious thing of praying the way people think. If I say praying, I probably don't do the way you picture it. I try to purpose to spend time communing with God, walking with him, talking, sure, but it's, and any prayers you hear me pray are parenthetical prayers within that prayer. It's all inside there. It's whenever you hear me pray for somebody or pray for something, that even when I started praying, I'm interrupting my time with God to talk about this thing specifically. Right? The rest of the time I'm just walking with him. And listen, I love a joke. I love, levity or whatever it is, to a degree. And I love to laugh. I enjoy life. I don't think of myself, and hopefully I don't think too many people that know me think of me as this, somber, depressed, sad person, because that's not me at all. I enjoy life. I enjoy a good joke. I enjoy laughing with people and laughing at people sometimes. I enjoy that too. But, but I enjoy laughing at myself too. I mean, I've been in some weird situations. And so, but I enjoy that. But it just, and the funny thing is, when I'm doing that, I haven't broken communion with God to do that. I'm doing that in the middle of, there's times I guarantee if you start to laugh, there's some things you can't laugh about, right? Because God wouldn't laugh at it. But there's times I guarantee if you get something going, you're laughing, and you're just laughing. I mean, it's just coming out. You know what I'm talking about? This belly laugh. You know what I'm talking about? Just that, man, tears, everything. You know what I mean? I mean, you've passed laughing and gone to snorting. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just there, right? I mean, you can't help it. It's just there, and you're going, right? And I mean, right, and if right then, if you could just pause right in a second and stop and listen, you'd hear God laugh too. Why? Because, come on, you can't get around somebody and laugh and them not laugh too, and you start laughing because it's contagious. Isn't that right? And then sometimes God starts laughing, and you catch yourself laughing. You don't even know why you're laughing. What are you laughing about? What are you laughing at? I'm laughing at you. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of funny, wasn't it? You know. You say you just laugh. Amen? You just laugh. And it's just God. You just walk with Him and commune with Him. And please understand, and everybody around here that knows me, they'll tell you too, I'm not this weird, wispy off in another world, just walking around in a trance. I'm not that way. I'm real. It's not weird. It's just life. Amen? And I'm not saying you should be like me. I'm just saying commune with God. Walk with God. Don't think in terms of I got to pray this many hours a day, I got to fast this many days a month. Just walk with God. Commune with Him. Spend time in the Word. Listen, it's the Spirit and the Word. You can get so Word-oriented that you become a Pharisee. You can get so Spirit-oriented that you just become this wispy thing that doesn't do a bit of good for anybody. You're just out there and just weird, and people make fun of you. I will. I'll make fun of you if you get that way, right? Okay? We'll videotape you and put it on the broadcast. Everybody's looking around for cameras. But do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. But you just walk with Him and just enjoy His fellowship. But you have to get the Word and the Spirit together. It's got to be both together. You got to walk in the Spirit. You got to walk in the Word. The Word lets you know when you're in the Spirit, and the Spirit confirms the Word. Amen? They both work together, and that's how you stay safe. People that get off in either ditch get wrong, and they get weird. And they get weird wrong. Okay? So just stay in the Word of God. Stay in the Spirit of God. Love God. Love your fellow man as yourself. Do to others as you would want done to you. And just walk and commune with God. And if there's somebody around you that you can't walk with God and walk with them, walk away from them. Don't walk away from God. Right? Walk away from them before you walk away from God. And don't let politeness or political correctness cause you to stand by or sit by and stay with someone just while I'm trying not to be rude or I'm trying not to be this. No, just walk away. Get away from it. Stand with God. Walk with God. Amen? Amen. Y'all take a break. Take a quick break.